All right, shalom, brothers and sisters. This is Brother Yosef. I want to come back to you with another video today. This time, talking about the meaning of the number 2. All right. Now, I told Ayah for this opportunity, I'm so excited about the information that I'm about to be able to share with you today. And the Most High, He really looked out for me because, I wanted to do this lesson last week. Since then, I lost the cord to my camera, and I believe the Most High made me lose that cord on purpose because the lesson that I was going to give you last week was not going to have as much meat in it as this one right here. And within those days of me trying to find this cord to my camera, the Most High just filled me with so much more information about this number 2, and I want to be able to share some of that with you today. All right, so for those of you that have been having dreams, visions, and signs, all right, and seeing this number 2, and do not know what this number means, I am here today to be able to share with you the significance of this number right here. It's a very powerful number. All right, some of you have took a look at the number 1, and now we are moving on. So I'm going to go ahead and share with you the definitions of this number. One of the meanings of this number is division. All right, we got the word division right there. Some of you already know that when you associate the number 2, but it has, as you can see, different meanings and different words that connect to that number. So every single word that I have on here may not be looked at as a meaning, but it's something that's associated with the number 2. All right, so some other meanings and words that's associated is multiplication, help. We have comparison. Water is associated with the number 2. Choices, restoration, witnesses, preservation, separate, directions, support, union, and of course we have the summary that's going to summarize it all. All right, so I am excited about this information that I'm about to share with you because this may be able to unlock some of the suspense that some of you have been dealing with. And I've been seeing a tremendous amount of anticipation for these number lessons, and as the Most High continually moves on me, I want to share those with you. All right, so for those of you that are non-believers, I want to start off with a couple scriptures because some of you do not believe that the Most High really speaks through numbers, and I'm here to tell you today that numbers is a language all by itself. Just like you have the Hebrew language, you got the Greek language, you got all these different languages. All right, numbers by itself is a language, and there's only a very few individuals that know how to understand the language and to be able to interpret it to others. All right, so I want to be able to share with you this language number by number so that you can get the importance of it. But before I even go into that, I want to share with you because there are individuals that believe that the Most High don't really speak through numbers. He's not really dealing with numbers like that. So let's go to Psalms chapter 90 and verse number 12. All right, Psalms chapter 90 and verse number 12. It says, "So teach us to number our days, that we may apply our hearts unto wisdom." So right there, that's going to be my theme scripture. I'm probably going to open up with that one every single lesson. Teach us to number our ways, that we may apply our hearts unto wisdom. All right, so wisdom and numbers, they have a close connection. All right, and we can talk about that later and later. But let's go to Psalm chapter 147. Psalm chapter 147, because this is going to be a real good one right here. Psalm chapter 147, and we're going to start at verse number 4. "He telleth the number of the stars, he calleth them all by their names." The stars up in the Shamayim, they have names, and the Most High calls them by their name. But he says he telleth the number of the stars. All right, the Most High knows how many numbers. We talked about that, and I believe I talked about that in one of the previous numbers videos I just did, about how he knows the numbers of the hair that's on your head. All right, the Most High is very caught up into the numbers. All right, I'm not talking about no gematria that these Jewish people are doing. I'm not talking about no mysticism that some of these people online, or these angel numbers that people are trying to tell you online. All right, I'm talking about biblical numbers, the Most High in numbers, and how He relates to them in this word right here. All right, so one more. I want to go to Isaiah chapter 40. All right. Isaiah chapter 40, and let me see what I'm looking for. I think I'm looking for verse number 26. He said, lift up your eyes on high, and behold who have created these things, that bringeth out their hosts by number. He calleth them all by names, by the greatness of his might, for he is strong in power. Not one fail. If you see that again, he calleth them by their names. He calleth the host of them by their names. The Most High is, he calls them by their names, but he calls the host by number. Number. The Most High is very into these numbers. All right, so now we're going to go into some of these definitions. All right, so right here I want to focus on this division. So give me a second here. I need to move this over here a little bit. So we're going to focus on the division aspect of the scriptures, and we're going to start at Genesis chapter 1. All right, many definitions for this number 2, and I'm telling you, if the Most High would allow me to do this last week, it would not be how it's about to be right now. And I told y'all for him slowing me down a little bit and giving me more time for him to reveal more to me. All right, Genesis chapter 1, and we're going to go to verse number 6. It said, and Yah said, let there be a firmament in the midst of the waters, and let it to divide the waters from the waters. All right, so this is one of the definition of the number 2. This was on the second day. All right, on the second day, he divided. Division. On the second, number 2, on the second day, he divided the waters. All right, I told you water is symbolic to the number 2 as well. All right, so the Most High, when he put out his creation, he had it wasn't just he just created things on these days just for no reason. They had association with numbers. All right, and the number 2 is associated with waters, but he divided the waters from the waters on the second day right here. All right, so you see that right there. He made the firmaments. He divided the water which was under the firmaments, all right, from the waters which were above the firmament. So he's dividing the water from the waters. Number 2 is, one of the definitions of the number 2 is division. So if you keep seeing this number in dreams, you keep seeing it in visions, all right, I'm not going to tell you the full meaning of it, because the Most High can have a different meaning of what he's trying to show it to you. But I'm telling you, this could be possibly one of those meanings, all right? But let's continue though. So let's go to 1 Kings chapter 3. 1 Kings chapter 3, and let's start at verse number 16. It said, then came there 2 women, all right? There came 2 women unto Solomon, that were harlots unto the king that stood before him. And the one woman said, oh, my master, I and this woman dwell in one house, and I was delivered of a child with her in the house. And it came to pass that the 3rd day after I was delivered, that this woman was delivered also, and we were together, that no stranger was with us in the house, save the 2 in the house. All right, 2 women. Number 19, and this woman's child died in that night because she overlaid it. And she arose at midnight and took my son from the besides me while thy handmaid slept, and laid it at her bosom, and laid her dead child in my bosom. And when I was rose in the morning to give my child suck, behold, it was dead. But when I considered it in the morning, behold, it was not my son which I did bear. And the other woman said, no, but the living is my son, and the dead is thy son. And this said, no, but the dead is thy son, and the living is my son. Thus they spake before the king. All right. Then said the king, the one says, this is my son that liveth, and thy son is dead. And the other says, no, but thy son is dead, and my son is the living. And the king says, bring me a sword. And they brought the king a sword. And number 25, and the king said, divide two harlots, 2 children. What did King Solomon say? Divide the living child in 2 and give the half to the one and the half to the other. Then the woman spake, whose living child was unto the king, for her bowels yearned upon her son. And she said, O master, give her the living child, and no wise slay it. But the other said, let it be neither mine nor thine, but divided. Then the king answered, give her the living child, and no wise slay it. She is the mother. All right. So right here, you have 2 women, harlots. You have 2 children. And what did King Solomon say? Divide. The number 2 means division. Divide the child into half and give 1/2 unto this woman and 1/2 to the other one. All right. The number 2 means to divide. All right. So let's continue. So now another definition of the number 2 is to multiply, or multiplication. All right, because the number 1 by itself, we talked about the definition of the number 1. It means to be alone. One of them is to be alone. And the multiplication process starts with 2 individuals. All right. So let's go to Genesis chapter 2. And let's go to, let me see what I'm looking for right here. Maybe I'm looking at Genesis chapter 1. Apologize for that. Genesis chapter 1 and verse number 28. And Yah barak them, saying, be fruitful and multiply, replenish the earth, subdue it, and have dominion over the fish of the sea, over the fowls of the air, and over every living thing that moveth upon the earth. Adam could not multiply by himself. He needed someone to be able to plant his seed into, to be able to multiply. 2 individuals. A woman cannot multiply by herself. A man cannot multiply by themselves. You need 2 to be able to multiply. All right, so the number 2 can be for division or multiplication, depending on how the Most High is trying to speak to you. All right, so let's continue. So the next definition of the number 2 is help. All right, you need a second individual to help you. All right, along with multiplication. 2 is the number that symbolizes help. All right, so let's go to Genesis chapter 2 and 18. Genesis chapter 2 and verse 18. And the Most High said, it is not good that man shall be alone. Remember, I told you the number 1 means alone. Man means alone, or one person, it means alone. We talked about the Most High Yah in the number 1 video, standing alone. He is by himself. All right, but the Most High said it's not good that man should be alone. I will make him a help. I will make him a help me for him. So the number 2 symbolizes help. All right, I will make him a help me. So not only does the multiplication process start with 2, the division process, some people can argue back and say it starts with 1, but division and multiplication really gets to going at the number 2, and 2 symbolizes help. All right, let's get that in Ecclesiastes. Go to the Torah of wisdom. All right, you know, in these numbers videos, you know, I'm not sticking with the Torah of wisdom like I normally do, because the numbers are spread out all across the book, but that's a good thing right here. Ecclesiastes chapter 4 and verse 9. 2 are better than 1, because they have a good reward for their labor. Number 10. For if they fall, the one will lift up his fellow. Help. If one fall, the other one will lift up or help his fellow. But woe unto him that is alone when he falleth, for he have another not to lift him up. Remember, going back to the number 1 video, number 1 means alone. All right, one of the definitions is alone. But right here, number 2, but woe, it said, for if they fall, the other one will lift his fellow up. He will help him. The other person that's by himself is going to be alone. All right, he's not going to get the help that he needs to move forward. So let's continue though. So we talked about that. Also too, we look at the, you can go through the New Testament yourself and you can see how the Messiah sent out the disciples 2 by 2. All right, he could have sent them all on individual journeys, but he chose to send them out 2 by 2. All right, what's the wisdom behind that? when you have two individuals, let's say that we are going up and we're knocking on doors and we, trying to, knocking on people's doors and we're trying to get them to come. Or let's just say we out and about, we walking up and down the street, we traveling on the highways and hedges. That one person by himself, he can't see what's behind him. He can just look in front of him. But the other individual can be walking just like this. As he's walking the other way like this, the other person, they can be back to back watching each other's back. Or, I know you've seen it on some of these videos where you have people out on the corner street teaching, and you have one person teaching the word, the other person standing behind them, and they're, watching their back, all right? Two people, and one more person provides you the help that you need, all right? Two people try to jump on you and you have another person with you, then both of you can fight the individuals that's trying to, do damage to you. So the Messiah sent them out 2 by 2. One person can teach the word, the other person can watch and protect him as he's doing that, all right? So now, let's continue though, because now we have another another meaning for this number 2, and it is a number that brings about comparison. All right, comparison. Now, what I want to do is I want to go ahead and go back to the verse I just shared, because even though I used it as a verse that can symbolize help, Ecclesiastes chapter 4 verse 9, it's also 2 is used in a definition as comparison. It's a number to compare. All right, Ecclesiastes 4 9 again in a different light. It says 2 are better than 1, comparing 2 to 1. It's a comparison number. All right, so the number 2 is used to compare. 2 is better than 1, for they have a good reward for their labor. All right, but let's continue though. We got a whole lot more than that. All right, let's go to Acts chapter 18. All right, so I just wanted to share with you this because it's 2 ways to choose. All right, it's 2 ways to choose, and we have Acts chapter 18 and verse number 26. It said, he began to speak boldly in the synagogue, whom when Aquila and Priscilla had heard, they took him unto them and expounded unto him the way of Yah more perfectly. So you have 2 ways to walk by. It's the way of the Most High Yah, and let's go to the book of Jude. It's another way. All right, 2 ways, 2 choices. It's a comparison number. 2 is a comparison number. Jude, in the book of Jude, it's only 1 chapter right before Revelation. Jude in verse 11. Woe unto them, for they have gone in the way of Cain, and ran greedily after the error of Balaam for reward, and perished in gainsaying of Kor. They went after the way of Cain. So it's 2 ways. It's the way of the Most High and the way of Cain. And the way of Cain is the way of Satan. All right. The way of the flesh. The way of Yah and the way of Cain. Cain is that wicked one that 1 John 3, I believe in 13, talks about. That wicked one, Cain. He is of the devil. All right, so it's 2 ways. You can say you can replace Cain with the devil, but it's the way of the Most High, it's the way of the devil, the way of the Most High, the way of Cain, whichever one you want to look at it. All right, so 2, we talked about this being a comparison number. So let's go into some of these comparisons, because you cannot compare when it's just dealing with the number 1. All right, you have to bring in 2 to start the comparison process. Just imagine you trying to compare yourself to yourself. You need someone else to compare to. Now you compare yourself. You can compare yourself to how you was yesterday to how you was today, but you're still comparing that one person. You need another individual. A lot of us get caught up into comparisons. That's something we need to really stop doing as well. Because you look at yourselves. You look at the way a person's built, the way a person's shape is. For women, they, always comparing themselves to one another. We got men that's comparing themselves. You got to be careful on them comparisons, all right? But the number 2 is used to compare. So that's some of the comparisons. We have Cain and Abel, all right? 2 brothers, all right? 2 brothers, and one was up after the way of the Most High, and one was after the devil. We talked about Cain. We had Abraham and Lot, Abram and Lot. All right. One of them, we see Abraham stood for belief. All right. In Hebrews chapter 11, he's called the father of belief. And Lot is an example of unbelief. He was so unbelieving, him and his daughters, that they felt like they was not going to have no more seed to preserve the rest of the earth. So they drunk wine, and he has sex with his own daughters. He was filled with unbelief. All right. And let's talk about Abraham and Lot's, both of their situations. Abraham's wife is, she's in the hall of belief. I believe in Hebrews 11, if I'm not mistaken. But you also see her mentioned in Galatians chapter 4, where it talks about her being compared to Jerusalem. All right. But Lot's wife was an unbelieving woman. Lot was an unbeliever. His wife was an unbeliever. And she was turned into a pillar of salt. All right. More comparisons. You have Isaac and Ishmael. All right. The number two brothers again. One was of the flesh and one was of the seed of the promise. All right. See that right there? And one of them was born, the seed of the promise was born by Sarah. And we have the seed of the flesh, the bondwoman, was born after Hagar. Once again, referenced in Galatians chapter 4, I believe, verse 24. You'll be able to see that. All right. Another comparison of two brothers, Jacob and Esau. All right. So you got Jacob and Esau. Here's the comparison with those two. Jacob was loved of the Most High. Jacob, he saw the promise. All right. He was the son of the promise through that seed of Isaac. He valued the birthright. And he flourished and prospered. It was prophesied that he will flourish and prosper. All right, Jacob. Esau is the end. Jacob is the beginning of that which will follow. All right, so Jacob has so much respect for the birthright that he even did what many people would call some shady stuff just to even get the birthright, because he knew how important it was. Esau despised the birthright. Esau despised the ways of the Most High. All right, Esau was hated. Go into the book of Malachi, you see that Jacob have I loved, Esau have I hated. Esau is doomed for destruction, as we see Jacob is, predestined to rule in the next life to come. All right. Two potters. We talk about this comparison thing for a minute. Let's go to Jeremiah chapter 18. All right, Jeremiah chapter 18 and verse number 1. It said, the word which came to Jeremiah from Yah, saying, arise and go down to the potter's house, and there I will cause thee to hear my words. Then I went down to the potter's house, and behold, a work on the wheels. And the vessel that he made of clay was marred in the hand of the potter. So he made it again another vessel. One vessel was marred. He said another vessel as seemed good to the potter to make. All right, and then you will go down and keep reading, and you will see that the Most High is dealing with Israel as the potter deals with the clay. One of the vessels of clay was marred. The other one was good. There's a comparison. All right, 2 is the number that deals with comparison. All right, so we talked about it being a number of division. We talked about it being a number of multiplication. We talked about it being a number of help. A definition of the help: multiplication, division, comparison is symbolic to water. All right, I ain't gonna say it means water, but it's symbolic to water because it was made on water was planted on the second day. All right. Another things to take into consideration: you have 2 covenants that's compared. You got the old covenant, the new covenant. All right. We have 2 Adams in the scriptures. You know that we got the first Adam that failed, and we got the second Adam that's going to be able to stand up for his people and be able to bring forth the union of the people. All right, we got 2 resurrections, 2 judgments, and there's also the second death. All right, which people will say 2 deaths. All right, so that's the comparison. Now let's go on to choices. The number 2 is symbolic to choices, or it means choices. So if you see in this number 2 in your dreams and your visions, it might be meant for you to make a choice. All right, I'm not telling you exactly, because the Most High, I'm just telling you the meanings of it. All right, it's going to be up to you to continue to pray and seek the Most High on which one of these meanings that this number means to you, if you are an individual that see this number. All right, or if the Most High may give you another meaning that I don't have on this board right here. All right, so 2 is a number of choices. So let's go to 1 Kings chapter 18. 1 Kings chapter 18. You might have to make a choice when you see this number 2. You might just have to make a choice. 1 Kings chapter 18, and we're going to go to verse number 21. Now this is when Eli was standing up for the people, and he was trying to give them a choice: who you going to serve, the Most High, or you going to serve someone else. But let me go and read it for you. And Elijah came unto all the people and said, how long halt ye between two opinions? Two opinions, two choices. All right. How long have you halted between two opinions? If Yah be the Most High, follow him. But if the be, I don't want to mention the name of this deity, if he be the Most High, follow him. And the people answer him not a word. So the Most High Elijah gave them a choice. All right, how long will you halt between two opinions, two choices? You need to choose if you're going to serve the Most High or you're going to serve the adversary. It's that simple. All right, we got that in the book of Joshua. All right, you see it in Joshua where he talks about that. Let me see if I can find it. Joshua talked about that. Okay, Joshua chapter 24 and verse 15. And if it seem evil unto you to serve Yah, choose you this day whom you will serve. All right, whether it be the gods that your fathers served, that were on the other side of the flood, or the gods that of the Amorites in whose land you dwell. But as for me and my house, we will serve the Most High. So Joshua told them, choose you this day whom you going to serve. Are you going to serve the Most High, or are you going to serve these other gods? Two different choices, and all these other gods falls under the umbrella of Satan. All right, so the number 2 is linked to a choice. All right, let's go to Matthew chapter 6 real quick. 2 is synced in with choices. You might got some choices you need to make. You see that number 2? Both sides might be dealing with you to make a choice. All right, Matthew chapter 6 and verse number 24. No man can serve two masters, for he will either hate the one and love the other, or else he will hold to the one and despise the other. You cannot serve Yah and Mammon. So here is the two different God choices right here, or Elohim choices right here: the Most High Yah and money. And anything else that's not the Most High Yah is falls under the umbrella of the adversary, the devil. All right, the number 2 symbolizes choices. It means choices. All right, so we talked about some meanings for it already. Now let's go down to restoration. All right, the number 2 is a number that means restoration as well. So let's go to Exodus chapter 22. Exodus chapter 22, and we're going to go to verse number 1. If a man shall steal an ox, or if he steal a sheep, kill it, sell it, he shall restore 5 oxen for an ox, 4 sheep for a sheep. If he be found breaking up and be smitten that he died, there shall no blood be shed for him. Number 3, if the sun be risen upon him, there shall be blood shed for him, for he shall make full restitution. If he have nothing, then he shall be sold for his theft. All right, number 4 is the key verse that I want to get to. If the theft be certainly found in his hand alive, whether it be ox, or whether it be ass, or whether it be sheep, he shall restore double. He shall restore double. Restoration, all right? The number 2 is connected to restoration. He shall restore double. All right, so if you got caught stealing, there was also 7-fold punishments for different things. 7-fold is the punishment of sin, but I'm getting way ahead of myself. For tuning in for the number 7. All right, we're gonna go. It's gonna be real deep on the number 7. But right here, back to number 2, verse number 7, it says, if a man, Exodus 22:7, if a man shall deliver unto his neighbor money or stuff to keep, and it be stolen out of the man's house, if the theft be found, let him pay double. Restore unto the man double. The number 2. If you holding on something for someone else and someone steals it from you, you owe that person double who lent it unto you. Keep that into your mind for you Torah scholars out there that want to talk about the Torah all the time, all right? Things that got taken under your care and you did not restore the person 2 times, all right? Breaking the law right there for those of you that say, I'm a Torah teacher. All right, but let's continue though. Now, so we talked about restoration. Let's go to Hosea. Let me see if there's one more in here I want to hit real quick. Restoration. All right. And I hope that none of you all take this the wrong way, because all I'm doing is just, I'm showing you scripture. So if you have a problem with what I'm saying, take that up with the Most High, all right? I'm not out here teaching no witchcraft. I'm not teaching no sorcery. I'm teaching you numbers according to the scripture, all right? Hosea chapter, let me see what I'm looking for here, all right? Hosea, well, maybe I got my scriptures wrong with that one. If I find the one in Hosea, then I'm gonna have to post that on here. All right. So sometimes I try to run off the top of my head, and sometimes I come up short. All right. So sleek out for that one. I'll post that scripture on here once I find it. If I don't find it right here, but it talks about that in the second day He's going to revive us again. All right. All right. So I'm gonna have to get back to that one. I apologize for that one. For those of you. I want to make sure I always stay on point. Every now and then, I might forget a scripture. All right. So now we're going to go to the next definition of the number 2 is witness. All right. The number 2 is symbolic to witnesses. All right. It means to witness. So let's go to number 2. Let's go into the scriptures. Deuteronomy chapter 17. Deuteronomy chapter 17 and verse number 6. At the mouth of 2 witnesses or 3 witnesses shall he that is worthy of death be put to death. But at the mouth of 1 witness he shall not be put to death. So in order to even put someone to death, your one word by itself that stands alone is not good enough. You need at least 2 witnesses. 2 individuals to witness to make somebody get put to death. 2 witnesses to build credibility, because one individual could come and they could be lying out the top of their teeth. All right, but you have multiple witnesses. All right, and even with 2 witnesses, you got, because it's in the scripture where 2 witnesses was wrong. You know, they tried to slander a woman and try to put things on her that she didn't even do. All right, so that's when you need the Spirit of the Most High. All right. But that's a whole other story for a whole other day. All right, so Deuteronomy chapter 17, we talked about 2 witnesses. Now let's go to Deuteronomy chapter 19. Deuteronomy chapter 19 and verse 15. 1 witness shall not rise up against a man for iniquity or for any sin, in any sin that he sinneth. At the mouth of 2 witnesses or at the mouth of 3 witnesses shall the matter be established. So the number 2 is symbolic to witnesses. All right, 2 witnesses. You need witnesses. All right, but that starts with 2, and that also is connected to the multiplication process. It's also connected to help. All right, because now you need one more person to help this person that's alone to be a witness. All right. So now let's continue. So now when we go down to Genesis, Bereshit, let's go back to the beginning. You see there was 3 men that came to Abraham in his tent, but let's see how many went down to Sodom. Genesis chapter 19 and verse 1. And there came 2 angels, or 2 Malachim, to Sodom at evening, and Lot sat in the gate of Sodom, and Lot seeing them rose up to meet them, and he bowed his face with his face towards the ground. And there came 2 messengers or witnesses down to Sodom. 2 witnesses. So the Most High didn't just sent 1 person down to Sodom. He sent 2 of them down there to go ahead and see. So now we go to let me see what I'm looking for here. All right, Revelation chapter 11 and verse number 1. I'm gonna start at verse number 1. There was given me a reed like a rod, and the messenger stood, saying, Rise and measure the temple of Yah and the altar of them that worship. But the court which is without the temple leave out, and measure it not, for it is given unto the Gentiles, and the holy city shall be tread down 42 months. Verse number 3. And I will give power unto my 2 witnesses. I will give power to my 2 witnesses, and they shall prophesy 1,260 days, clothed in sackcloth. I will give power to my 2 witnesses. You need 2 or 3 witnesses in the scriptures for a thing to be established. The Most High sent 2 angels down to Sodom to destroy it, and he sent 2 messengers, 2 witnesses in the book of Revelations to preach his word, and even into the point of getting killed in the middle of the street. But he needed 2 to do it. He don't need 2, he can do it with 1, but he chose. Talk about the word choices, right? The Most High chose to use 2 to bring forth. He chose 1 to help. He chose 1 to help his other person that would have been alone. All right. So who are 2 more examples, or who are more examples of 2? You have Caleb and Joshua. There were 2 men out of what, 600,000 men that brought back a good report. 2 men that were considered faithful witnesses. And because of that, they inherited the promised land. You got Moses and Elijah. All right. In the scriptures, 1 stands for the law. Moses stands for the law. Eliah stands for the prophets. All right. You have the 2 witnesses between the Old Testament and the New Testament. All right. Which the New Testament really is. You can't have the New Testament without the Old Testament. All right. But those can also be used in comparison to one another. Because some people want to say that the New Testament brought about grace, which grace was really in the book of Genesis. Noah found grace with the Most High, I believe in Genesis chapter 9, somewhere around those earlier chapters. So it was a few different little things that we could see that was probably changed in the so-called New Testament, the Brit Hadashah, with baptism, immersions. You had the gift of the Ruach being poured down upon those individuals, but they were keeping the Pentecost, the feast days, all right, when the Spirit was poured out. All right, that's a whole nother study for a whole nother day. All right, so we talked about the number 2 of being a number for witnesses. Now, let's talk about this other meaning of the number 2. The number 2 can also mean direction. All right, so the number 2 can symbolize direction. So let's go to Zechariah chapter 4. Zechariah chapter 4. All right. Zechariah chapter 4, bear with me. Get to these books of the Nabees. They get down to these books they want to call the so-called minor prophets. All right. Zechariah chapter 4 and verse number 1. And the messenger that talked with me came again and walked with me as a man and waked me as a man that wakened up out of his sleep. And said unto me, What seest thou? And I said, I have looked, and behold, a candlestick all gold, with a bowl upon the top of it, and the 7 lamps thereof, and the 7 pipes to the 7 lamps, which are upon the top thereof. You see all these 7s, but we're going to have to deal with that in the 7th lesson, all right? But number 3, and 2 olive trees by it, one upon the right side of the bowl, and the other upon the left side. So the number 2 can also deal with the direction. And those 2 directions are the right side and the left side. All right. 2 olive trees, one up on the right side of the bowl, one up on the left side. Let's go to Ezekiel chapter 41. Ezekiel chapter 41. And let's go to... Now, Ezekiel chapter 41 by itself is filled with numbers. So if you don't believe in numbers, I mean, I don't know what to tell you. But Ezekiel chapter 41 is filled with numbers. And we're going to go to verse number 18. It said, And it was made with cherubim and palm trees, so that a palm tree was between the cherub and the cherub. Every cherub had 2 faces. So imagine this being made, and you're building this temple, and they making these cherubs. All these cherubs have 2 faces. So imagine how that's. Picture that in your mind for a second. Verse 19. So the face of a man was towards the palm tree on the one side, and the face of a young lion towards the palm tree on the other side. You see that? The number 2. 2 heads on the cherub, one facing that way, the other facing that way. 2 is the number that symbolizes direction. Alright? 2 is the number that symbolizes direction. Now, let's go to one more definition of 2 is preservation. Let's go to there for a second. Let's go to preservation. And let's go to Genesis chapter 6. Alright, Genesis chapter 6. And for those of you that are really into these numbers, you know other individuals that's in the numbers, share this video. Alright, don't keep this to yourself. Share this to individuals. This is a language. Alright, the Most High is allowing you to get the definition or the meaning of a language that's been hidden, alright, throughout generations. Alright, this is being shared with you in today's time, in real time, right now. Alright, so Genesis chapter 6, and let's go to verse number, see what I'm looking for here, verse 19. He said, and every living thing of all flesh, 2 of every sort shall y'all bring into the ark to keep them alive with thee. They shall be male and female. That goes back to that comparison thing too. Male, female, light, dark, day and night. Alright, 2 is a comparison number, but in this aspect it's also used, it says, every living thing of all flesh, 2 of every sort shalt thou bring into the ark to keep them alive with thee. Preservation. To preserve them, to keep them alive. These are the ways the Most High is using these numbers. This is the way he has used them in the past. Alright, I'm just a messenger that's sharing you the information, telling you the information right here. 2 is a number for preservation. Alright, 2 sets. Alright, so I'm gonna go to some last little things before I get ready to close this out. Let's go to another definition. This word right here, support, you can link this with help. Alright, help and support, they kind of similar in a way, but the New Testament supports the Old Testament. Alright, 2 is a number that supports. You got support in that way. You know, you got the help and support when that second individual was there to support the first one while he's doing the work of the Most High. The union though. So let's go to Amos chapter 3 and verse 3. Alright. Amos chapter 3. This is going to be talking about the union aspect of number 3. Alright, so y'all got to bear with me. These books right here in the back. Amos chapter 3 and verse number 3. Can 2 walk together except they be agreed? So if these 2 individuals do agree, they come together as a union, or they're in unison. And that 2 leads you back to the number 1. They are one. Alright, so 2 symbolizes a union. As we see the connection with the Most High in Israel, or as you see the connection with Yahusha and the bride, or Israel as well, as you can see the connection between husband and wife, 2 individuals, they can't walk together except they be agreed. Alright, they have to be a union. Alright, and the Old and the New Testament feed off of each other. Really, the New Testament feeds off the Old Testament, because the Old Testament, so-called Old Testament, was first. Alright, so these are the definitions and meaning and the symbolic points of the number 2. I'm going to go over them one more time. When you having dreams and visions and you keep seeing this number 2 over and over, I ain't just saying you just saw it one time and you ain't seen it again for another 2 or 3 years. I'm talking about if you just keep seeing this number over and over and over again. Alright. It might be the Most High might be getting you ready for some division. Alright. The Most High might be getting you ready to separate. I didn't go into this too much to separate, but when I talked about Abraham and Lot, there had to be a separation. Alright. Oftentimes when there are 2 individuals in scriptures, they have to separate. Oftentimes in our lives, when you have 2 individuals, something will cause them to separate. You can't separate with just one person. You need 2. Alright, so 2 stands for division, multiplication, it stands for help, it stands for comparison, it symbolizes water, because water was on the second day and he divided the waters from the waters. 2 symbolizes choices, restoration. You need 2 to be faithful witnesses. 2 is symbolic to preservation. 2 has to deal with separation. It deals with direction, support, union. All right, and let's go ahead and see if I can close it out with this one. There's one more that I wanted to throw in here, and let's see if I can find this real quick. Sleek eye. All right, 2 right here. I'm looking for something here real quick, and maybe it wasn't even meant for me to go over. All right, but on the 2 it talks about upon these 2 hang all the law and the prophets. All right, so 2 connects everything together, and it summarizes the law. On those two laws and commandments. All right, the 2 laws and commandments that the Mashiach talked about. Some people say those are the only 2 laws you got to keep. No, they're not. All right, those 2 symbolizes the whole Most High's plan, and how one is for the Most High. These sets of laws are for the Most High, and these other ones are for your brothers and your sisters. All right, on these 2 laws hang all the prophets. So it summarizes the law. The last word down here is summary. All right, so with that said, I pray that the Most High be with each and every single one of you. If you like this video or any other previous videos that I did up to this point, click that subscribe button, click the bell button for the notification, share this video with as many people as you possibly can so that they can be enlightened on this hidden treasure right here. Until the next time we meet again, I say Shalom, Shalom, Yah Barak.